with diversity from different ethnic groups. And right now I am in the Karez Folk Costume Park, or Karez It is quite a special place with the keyword Karez in it. Karez is a wonder construction site that I will explain a little bit later. But let's start with the folk custom part. You can see that they are singing and dancing, and there are a lot of visitors. I was told that every single day they welcome at least 5,000 visitors here in the theme park. And they're enjoying the show quite much. Let's see if we can join them as one of the visitors. Let's go. There are so many of them. Folks as well as visitors. This is so much fun, and they're getting faster and faster. Okay, different movements, same level of difficulty. I was told that here in this theme park, and to be more precise, here in Turpan, there are different types of local culture, and it's very vibrant, and that is the welcoming session in today's show. Let's take a look. This is kind of a plot of a young boy chasing after a beautiful girl, and the girl declined for once, but accept after all. Here in China, we have a saying that for different ethnic groups, especially those that are living in this part of the country, they are very versatile. They're good at singing and dancing, and they're incredibly beautiful. Bravo! Woo! Ooh, what a wonderful way to start a special show. This is, hi, 你好. Hi, 你好. This is one of the ladies. 谢谢，非常好，跳得非常好. Thank you. 谢谢. This is very interesting and quite a wonderful way to start a journey. But for today, we are doing our show in also a kind of a different way, because here in Xinjiang, not only are we discovering the local stories and learning about the local culture, we have a special mission in our live stream today. That is to look for some folk tale stories here in Turpan. to be more specific, here in the Karez Folk Costume Theme Park. Let's see whether or not we can uncover some fun stories originated here in Xinjiang. To start with, let's talk about the story of Karez, but to tell that story, we have a more vivid area, or have an area that can more vividly explain as well as demonstrate the origin, the stories, as well as the science behind the building of the Karez. So let's go. There are so many visitors here. It's very vibrant. I was told that every single day there are at least 5,000 visitors, and at the same time we see the show, see the dancing and singing, very interactive and immersive feeling. I had the immersive experience as well, and so do all the visitors. And I was told that here, not only can you come here, learn about the history and science behind the Karez, and of course, singing and dancing here with the performers, you can also enjoy cafe. Right next to me is a quite modern cafe, and you can even stay here because there are homestays or B&B kind of hotels here, right here in this park. That is part of the local people's initiative or strategy rather, to give visitors a better, more comprehensive experience and better feeling, better journey. Okay, so they're still singing and dancing. Okay, so let's continue our live stream and looking for the origin stories, at least about the Karez or Kan'er. In Uyghur language, Karez actually means underground river. It's the kind of initiative or the kind of construction that is quite unique and necessary here in at least Turpan, if not the entire Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region. What we know about this place is that it's very dry, it's very hot, and it's a Gobi desert area. Here in Turpan, we've heard about this several times. That is, every single year, the raindrop is only around 16 millimeters, whereas the evaporation is as huge as 3,000 millimeters, meaning that here on especially the on-ground area, it is almost impossible to have a lot of on-ground rivers and lakes. If water is here, they will most certainly be evaporated. And that is why for people who would need water to survive, to drink, to feed or to have their animal fed, and also to use water for irrigation, all these things require water. At the same time, it's really hard to get water. And how did they manage to find a way to use clean water? Well, legend has it that a young boy who's a shepherd, the shepherd himself was herding once, and he got this huge herd of sheep, and he was raising the sheep to a relatively long distance area, a little bit far away from his hometown, and it was lost. He was lost a little bit in the Gobi Desert, and it was crucial for him to find water resources, especially freshwater resources, so that he and the herds can survive. And he was a very smart young boy, so he thought, we have plants here on the Gobi Desert. If there are plants, there must be water underneath. So he started to dig, and after digging and digging for quite deep, he found some fresh water, and he tried to drink the water. It was very tasty and sweet and clear, and from there he realized, there are water here, and it's abundant water. What can I do to bring the water back to my village, back to my hometown? So he started to dig and try to dig out a river flowing or introducing the water right from where he found the water source to his hometown village. The journey was not quite so easy because we talked about it's in the desert area, it's quite so hot, it's very, very dry, and the water will naturally evaporate along the way, so he couldn't get the water out. So this young boy was thinking, what would be a good way to have the water or to lead the water back to my home village? He had to think about it for several days, and because of his herds have a really deep connection with him, especially emotionally, finally, his dedication and perseverance moved the sheep, the head of the sheep. For those of you who had the experience of being a shepherd or raising a herd of sheep, you know that the sheep would follow the first sheep. So the first sheep is generally very wise and with a lot of experience. So he started to talk. The sheep started to talk and said that, well, the water on ground is easy to be burned out or out of by the sun. How about you try to construct a river underground? And he figured that would be a good idea, and that was the origin of the Karez. And let's take a look at the real story, because that's the legend, that's the local folk tale, but the real concept was behind or hidden in the story. So let's take, actually we can start over here. This is the result, the outcome of the water, of the Karez Kan'er. Here we see basically a water reservoir that is already with great results. You see animals thrive with a lot of plantation, and people are using it because this is the Aiding Lake, which is where the water will flow eventually to. So where does the water come from? Let's continue to move. This would be the on-ground river we talked about. The on-ground river is used for people to, for agricultural use, for irrigation, and it's on the ground to it can be on the ground because at this area the climate is rather conducive already, and people are living here with a lot of plantation, so the evaporation would not be as strong at this area. And it can see here in this wall painting, they showcase the entire process of the water helping and also nurturing people along the way. And here is the water output area. This is where the water transforms from underground water to on-ground rivers. And the reason this is possible or it's necessary is because we are moving to relatively dry and deserted area. And in the deserted area, if we have on-ground water or on-ground river, it will be very easily evaporated and cannot reach to the point where people can use it. And that is why the smart people here in Xinjiang, they decided to excavate underground rivers instead of on-ground ones. And in order to do that, you have to start digging from the surface of the ground, and you have the shift. Now you have the underground river. People want to have the river flowing from the higher, relatively higher area to the lower area, so it's easier or it's possible for the water directly from or melted from the snow-capped mountain all the way to the basin area in Turpan. And the reason I was going from the output, from the results, all the way back to the reason was that that's how it's done in real life. That's the construction process. People start from where they need the water, they find the river or the underground direction, flowing direction of the river, and they start digging little by little. It is said because you need to have the shaft to go to the down area or to underground area, the exact checkpoints. It's kind of like checkpoints to help you locate and find the underground river routes or paths, so that they have to also dig this shaft. And it is said that in the beginning, in the convergence of the underground river and the on-ground river, you can start digging the shaft that is as deep as around 3 to 5 meters. But when the shaft is all the way to as near as the Flaming Mountains, it can go as deep as around 98 meters. So let's take a look at how all these is constructed or is possible. Now you know a little bit about the folktale, you know a little bit about how the science behind it is like, at least the gist of it. If you have any questions or any comments, you can share with me in the comment area. We already see some comments. We see Kenny saying great dancing. It was not great dancing. was great dancing by the performers, not by myself, but thank you for that comment. And where about is the place, the location? It is in Turpan in Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in the relatively west side of the country. Here in Xinjiang, it hosts all the 56 ethnic groups here in China, which makes the culture very diverse and rich. And here in Turpan, we are talking about this very special construction, which is set or is considered one of the three most significant and important construction here in China. One would be, or here in ancient China, one would be the Great Wall, the other is the Great Cannon, and this one, the Karez For people living here, because of the dry climate and and the hot weather, it is essential to have such construction so that they can continue to live, continue to survive and thrive here in this basin. Yes, I agree. Food here are quite enjoyable. We are yet to go to different places, region, also try enjoy all the new as well as. Oh, hello, Mongbo, and we are here standing right with a Karez. This is a real one. Instead of like in some other, you know, the idea about theme parks. In other theme parks, you might have all the things that are constructed by, or that are man-made, that are constructed by modern people. But here, in this one, in this Karez Folk Costume theme park, this Karez is a real one. In Chinese, we say jing. Jing is supposed to be a vertical well, but Kan'er is actually a horizontal and really long river. So here in Xinjiang, we say 一条井 instead of 一口井，一条井，一条Kan'er井. And this is a real, 这是一条真实的Kan'er井. It has been constructed in several decades ago, and this is the Mingqu part. This is the above ground river part. So, 这是一个真正的Kan'er井. Let's go and find the Anqu area. And here we're walking along the river. If you can follow me. Here is the part that I was talking about, the finding the clear water and the herds going to different places. And here we are following the river area. Let's follow the river, and we are surrounded by a lot of tourists. Every year there are a lot of tourists coming here to Turpan and to different tourist destinations. Just yesterday we went to the Flaming Mountain, which is also a very famous site because it is believed that the reason the Flaming Mountain was so hot is that the Monkey King, if you know about the Monkey King, give me a comment in the comment area, or Sun Wukong, he himself was this rebellious hero in Journey to the West, and he was captured by the heavenly soldiers, and he was put into a heavenly furnace to be destroyed. But instead of being destroyed, he got his golden fiery eyes, which can look to as far as thousands of miles. That's what it said in Journey to the West. And after being in the heavenly furnace for over 81 days, he was not destroyed, and he knocked over the heavenly furnace, and one burning brick landed right at the spot of the Flaming Mountains and making the place really hot. In hot summer days, it can go as hot as 70 degrees Celsius, which explains how come these kind of rivers are quite essential in places like Xinjiang and Turpan. In the entire autonomous region, there are over 1,700 of these Karez, and here in Turpan, there are already more than 1,000 ones, explaining the significance of having such a demonstration and such theme park right here. Let's continue our journey. We have many comments coming in. 美丽的国家中国, thank you Jose for your lovely comment. I agree with you. And here in this park, I already found two lovely stories one about Karez and the other about the Flaming Mountains. The Flaming Mountains is a Gobi desert area, but right in the middle of it, there is a grape valley, 葡萄沟 grape valley, that is tucked in the center of the Flaming Mountains. Outside in the Flaming Mountains, it's very hot and very dry. It's not the nicest place to be traveling in, but in the Grape Valley, it's a totally different story. In the Grape Valley, it's quite moisturized, it's quite cool, and we see that there are a lot of different types of grapes, which, according to legend, are the results of the Kan'erzing, of the Karez, because of the Karez can flow from the snow mountains. The water melt from the snow mountains, go through the Karez all the way to Turpan, allowing very sweet grapes to be grown here in the basin. And in this little tunnel, we get to see a little bit of cultural backgrounds as well as knowledge about the Kan'erzing area. And let's continue to move. You see here, we have some sculptures showcasing the life stories or the life habits of the Uyghur people among other ethnicities. Here in Xinjiang, we talked about they have all of the 56 ethnic groups here in Xinjiang. And here, if you take a look at this tree, local people believe this tree is the perfect demonstration of the relationship among different ethnic groups. That is, they grow really close together. In their roots area, we will be able to see how they perform up there. For those of you who have just tuned in, you're watching a live stream with the reporting trip China Horizons. For today's live stream, I have a special mission. I am here for some story hunting. I'd like to find out some local folktale stories here in Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, because I am completely enchanted by a lot of the folktale stories that we here have just rolled out with our latest podcast series, Chinese Folktales. In Chinese Folktales, we talk about a lot of different stories. We'll tell a lot of different stories originated here in China. And for this latest season, the stories are mainly from Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region, because we talked about how diverse and rich the culture is, and we get to have enjoyed a lot of fun stories. So I kind of want to know what are some other stories that are featured here on this land, and that's why we are on our special story hunting journey. In the Chinese folktale stories, there was this one story that is featuring the main character Afanti. If you're familiar with Afanti, you know he's a very witty young man. He's not very rich, but he always fights against the rich people in the village, because the rich person is not rich because of his kindness or smartness. He was rich because of what he had, and he's been suppressing villagers in the neighboring area. And so in these kind of stories, it's ancient stories, it's folk stories, and in these kind of stories, Afanti is always fighting against the villain, the not super villain, but kind of a villain in the story, who's been being very greedy, not nice to the people. He does not have the good character of benevolence that Chinese people would always praise. And in that case, the villain here is called Master Ba Yi, or Ba Yi Lao Ye. 八一老爷 is not a name for a character. It's a title, or it's a generalized way of addressing those who are living in the village, having a lot of money, but are not very kind to his neighbors, who the fellow villagers. And I was told here, Karez, another origin story, another folktale story about the origin of Karez is that the Karez was invented by a poor young man, poor but smart young man, and then it was invested by one master Bai at that time. He invested in building and constructing the underground river, the upground river, the real rivers, and also everything. But he charged people by how many people are there in the family and how many days they use the water. So he charged a lot of money, and after, people say, folk tale has it that after the establishment of China in these days, they stopped charging people, or the master Bai stopped charging people. So that is the connection, I guess, between the master Bai in the story of Avanti and the master Bai here. So remember, master Bai is not a name, it's kind of a title or a general way of addressing those who are rich but not kind. Let's continue to see what are some other parts of this park. Like we've mentioned, the origin of Karez, there are so many different ways. Here in Xinjiang, we have around 2,000 Karez here, but in fact, in other deserted areas, in other parts of the world, there are also even more Karez being built. So I guess at the end of the day, people's wisdom as well as the dedication to thrive even in the most harsh environment are connecting, are universal. The idea is universal, and we can always find a way to take advantage of the natural environment, and at the same time also harmoniously coexist with the nature. Let's see if any of you have sent in any message. Thank you so much for watching the live stream. We are on a special story hunt journey here in Turpan. After being here in Xinjiang for several days, we've already seen beautiful landscape. We went to different places, different companies in various industries to see how local people bring bread onto the table, what they live by, and we've also tried very delicious Xinjiang food. We've tried the barbecue. The skewers are very tasty. We've also tried the noodles as well as the rice, and I have to mention the fruits here in Xinjiang are exponentially sweet. We've tried the sweetest grapes, the best honey melon, one of the best honey melons I've ever tasted. And yesterday the watermelon was very nice. And it's kind of a miracle to think about. We are almost in the middle of a desert, and in the Gobi Desert area, in order for people to work and to thrive and to provide sweet fruits as such, it takes a lot of wisdom and it takes a lot of dedication. I asked around, and I know that here for the Karez to be built, one Karez takes around 15 to 30 years to build, because you have to dig the shaft and then start digging all the way from the Turpan Basin to the foot of the Tianshan mountain, or at least to the Flaming Mountains and to that area. So it takes a really long time to dig and to construct a Karez. And for the longer times, for the hard ones, to find the route to successfully dig the underground river area, it takes as much as 50 years. So quite a long time to finish everything. And think about, there are around 2,000 Karez here in Xinjiang. How you can imagine the hardship, but you can also imagine the joy and happiness at the end when the water is finally there in the village. Let's continue to watch and see if we have more information. We have our friends from online saying, very professional tour, Professor. It's not as professional. I learned it from the best. Here in Xinjiang, almost everyone can tell the story of Karez because it's their lifeline. They say it's their lifeline. They say it is how they got water so that they can be nurtured. It's quite essential for them. So I learned from the very best. For those of you who are interested and curious about how to make sure that the river, the underground river especially, that we're digging are to the right direction, there's also tiny, or to be more precise, great wisdom hidden under it. So here they're talking about the culvert or the underground water. The culvert it's underground. It's totally you're basically blind when you're digging it. You do not really know whether or not the direction is correct, which partly explains how they need to dig out the shaft first. So you dig out the shaft and you dig out two shafts. You want to make sure that you are digging to the right direction from one shaft to another. And how do they do that? There are two major tricks. The first one is to hang a piece of wood from the upper area of the shaft, and they directly, well, when it's not that deep, they can use that same very straight wooden brick to lead them to the right direction. That is one way. But another very smart way is to use light. They would bring and you understand that the light behind them so that the shadow is in front, so they can follow the shadow. The shadow tells them where is the direction they should be digging to. And sometimes one is a bit too long, they would bring two lights behind them. So once they turning their head and looking back, they see the two lights, and the two lights or the 2 points would make you know what is a straight line. Basic math principle, but still quite clever. For the Karez, there is the on-ground river part. There is also the underground river part. The underground river would be much more clean. The water in it would be much more clean. So traditionally, here in Turpan, people would drink the water from the culvert, the underground water, and then use the water from the river above ground for agricultural irrigation, or use it as drinking water for animals and husbandry. And finally, when the water is at the reservoir area, they return the water back to nature, because we have to always thank the nature for giving us the opportunity to thrive. And see, that was the wood I was talking about. You have a wood stick hanging from the ground all the way down here, so you know the direction. This is one way to give direction to the workers constructing the culvert. We have Antonio saying, I love the term story hunting. That's what we're doing here in Xinjiang. We want to find the most authentic and interesting and enlightening folk tales here in Xinjiang. The ones that are as good, or not as good, but slightly the second best thing comparing to our stories in the Chinese folktale stories. And there are a lot of wisdom hidden in these stories. When we talk about people from different backgrounds, we find out that the kind of characters, the virtues that we praise are universal. That's always the same. It's always connectable. And here in Xinjiang, because this place is with a lot of different ethnicities, at the same time also bordering a lot of different countries. It borders 8 different countries, and the convergence of cultures and the communication of different civilizations are quite vibrant throughout history, from thousands of years ago to today. And that ensures that the vibrant folk tales are also very much worth your time discovering. And make sure, if you haven't, listen to our latest podcast, Chinese Folk Tales. It has been a wonderful season featuring stories from China's Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region for this season and beyond in other seasons. There you can find the kind of love stories and also smart, witty, and humorous stories like the one that we were talking about with Afanti, and also other kind of enjoyment that you can have. Also quite a good way to have your kids understand how the world works. So happy to see you today, Rick Woodward. Thank you so much for your comment. And here we are in Xinjiang Uyghur Autonomous Region in Turpan. The other day we were in Urumqi in the International Grand Bazaar. We found a lot of element in folk tale stories. And here in Karez, we've seen, oh, see, that is the outlet of water. That's from the culvert area directly changed to the on-ground river area. One last glimpse of the lovely structure, of the spectacular structure that has been nurturing people here in Xinjiang for thousands of years. It's unimaginable to think how people from 2,000 years ago figure out such a smart way. But I think different legends would have explanations. It's legends that are making the story so cool, but it is the dedication and perseverance that make sure that people living on this land are thriving. And that brings us to the end of today's live stream. Thank you so much for staying with us the entire time. And thank you for tuning in. This is China Horizons. At the same time, we are doing a special live stream for story hunting. We've hunted several stories. And let me know in the comments which one do you enjoy the most. Thank you so much. We're still here in Xinjiang. We'll stay for several more days. And if you're interested, if you are as enchanted as I was by these stories, make sure you stay with us. Thank you so much. I'm Niao Niao. I will see you next time. Bye.